Woo! Feel free to unmute.
We're doing great.
Hey, how's it going? Everybody, I'm going to introduce myself really quick, then Tamra, and then I want everybody to unmute. We're just going to unmute. I want everybody to say hi. Hi from wherever you're from, like hi from California, hi from Massachusetts, hi from Kentucky. So I'm Belladonna Rizzo. I'm right here in Salt Lake City, and it's a beautiful snowy day today. So everybody's going to be out snowboarding, except me, because I don't snowboard, yo, because I'm fond of my knees. And so I've been in the business for 17 years. I've done everything imaginable in real estate, from being a brand new agent to managing one of the largest real estate brokerages in all of North America. That's no fun. And then decided to go back to being an agent. Tamra, you're up.
Okay, well, all of the Bella's intro is mine as well. We've been in business for 17 years. I'm also located here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've done most of my career with short sales and foreclosures. Became a pretty big deal for my career. I learned prospecting the hard way with default homeowners. So I've done that, as well as I recently in the last year became a John Maxwell certified coach. So I do that as well. And I coach about 20,000 agents. So it's been fun. And I look forward to this listing challenge and meeting the rest of you.
Just 20,000 agents. That's all. She just coaches, 10 or 20,000 agents. It's not a big deal at all. So, all right, guys, let's take a second. Let's just do it for it's 10:05. Let's do it for 30 seconds. Everybody unmute and say hi from wherever you're logging in from. Ready?
Hi,
this is Janet from Puerto Rico.
California.
Hi from Massachusetts.
Nice.
Hi.
We got East Coast and West Coast in the house today. We actually even have some folks from Puerto Rico, and I'm not sure if our Aussies are making it in or not, but this little challenge went a little broader than we had expected when we first signed up. So really quick, guys, what we'd like to do, I'm going to share my screen with you for just a second. And we just want to kind of give you a heads up so you know what to expect over this next 5 days. And then while I'm sharing my screen, Tamra, if you and Nico don't mind just letting people in, because they're still coming in like crazy. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Are we good?
We're good.
All right. So welcome everybody to the Crush It with Listings Challenge. Welcome to day one. We are so excited to have you here. And we already started a little early for the people that logged in a little bit ahead of time. Here, I'm going to go ahead and admit Mary.
Bella, you're muted.
Hello, I was trying to let somebody in and I muted myself. So what we'd like to do, guys, is let's just go over. I'm going to back up my screen one. What your goals are for 2022. So if you're just getting logged in, please open up the chat in the bottom of the Zoom. Tell us where you're from and tell us how many closings do you want to list in, not closings, pardon me, listings do you want to close in 2022, and how long have you been in the business? Just give us a heads up and let us know. So we're going to give everybody some time to do that now. And then I just wanted to share what our intentions are for you over the next 5 days. Do you want to take this one, Tamra?
Go ahead. I'm letting everybody in and monitoring the Facebook. So
okay, perfect. So the first and foremost, guys, this is a really fun event, but it is all about business. So we want to make sure you get strategies, ideas, tools, and inspiration so that you can list more homes this year. Now, Our true big goal for you is over the next 5 days, you're going to exit this challenge with a brand new listing, or at the very least, a handful of awesome listing leads that you wouldn't have gotten if you hadn't have joined the challenge. And then the last one, of course, is we are here to have a great time, guys. We're here to make friends, grow your listing business. I don't know what happened, but when I tipped over into my 50s, I was done with doing crap that was not fun. Okay. If I don't like it and I don't like the people I'm doing with it, I ain't doing it. And so we're just here to have a great time together and hopefully make some long-term friends. The Facebook group is going to stay up permanently. And so that is going to be a place that you guys can come. You can get inspired. You can ask questions. You can drop samples of videos or content and get feedback from the group, and hopefully make some really awesome friends that you'll keep for the rest of your career. Does that sound good to everybody? Yeah? Awesome. Okay. So really quickly, guys, I'd like to do a little bit of housekeeping on how you can get the absolute most out of this challenge. So one is, for the next 5 days, you're going to get an email a day from us. It's going to come approximately an hour before start time. In each morning email, we're going to be dropping one of the listing toolkit pieces that we promised you at the beginning of this challenge. So in today's 1 hour reminder email, we sent you the listing, Crush It with Listings workbook. It is a comprehensive workbook, and there is a bunch of empty pages in the back, just lined pages that you can use to take notes. So if you're in a place where you can print the workbook off, it actually might be a good idea. Otherwise, make sure that you grab something that you can take notes with, because we are going to have just insanely amazing guest speakers every day. So we're going to spend the first half of the challenge with you and I and Tamra, and then the second half with our guest speakers. So if you can, show up live every day. You guys, it's a 5-hour commitment. We're going to go roughly an hour each day. We might go a little longer for people that want to hang out with us, but we promise to get you all the content will be delivered within that first 60 minutes, because we know you're busy. But you guys, we just did a fun little exercise with Susan, who wants to list 36 homes this year. For her average sales price is actually a little bit higher, but if we just use the low median price for Utah, that's $580,000 in commissions that she could earn. So I think it's worth making a commitment to yourself to attend all 5 days live if you can, because it's going to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to you in commissions down the road. Now, here's what I know. We are here to play full out, you guys. We are giving you everything we've got, okay? And we are going to ask you to play full out too. So what does that mean? That means ask questions and interact during this Zoom. Use the chat. Use the question box, okay? Drop your questions in there. I promise you we will answer all of them before we jump off at the end of every day. Next, each day you're going to be learning a different set of skills from a different mega gigantic producer. At the end of each day, decide on one thing that you're going to take away and implement in your business. You guys don't try to take away like 18 things from this challenge. Okay. All I want you to do is take one thing per day and implement that. And whatever it is, let us know in the Facebook group. Okay. So half of this challenge takes place here on Zoom, but the other half of the challenge takes place in the Facebook group. So let us know what your takeaway was. Let us know how you're going to implement it into your business, and let us know any questions that you have, right? So engage, post questions in the group, post wins and ideas in the group. That's what it's there for. And we really want to hear what your biggest takeaways are. Okay, so really quickly, the Crush It with Listings workbook. Did everybody get the workbook? It would have come in today's email. If you didn't, let us know in the chat.
No.
So we've got a few that said, because we know some people were saying they weren't getting the emails. Okay, so here's what we're going to tell you. If you didn't get the email this morning with the workbook, let us know and we'll drop it to you directly in the Facebook group. Okay. As a matter of fact, we'll just make
there's quite a few, Bella, that haven't gotten it, and they've even checked their spam folders. So
okay, man, I don't know what's going on with that. That's frustrating. Okay, so we're just going to nip it in the bud, you guys. At the end of
where is it coming from? And we can search the email address and maybe find it that way as well. And
that's a great idea. It's coming from me. So Belladonna Rizzo is the name on the from for
it's actually
email.
No reply, Bella. Here, I'll actually drop it because it's coming from do not reply at mg.belladonnarizzo.com.
Okay. And so we'll make sure that we drop each day's toolkit. We'll drop in the Facebook group. So for any reason it doesn't show up in your email, don't worry, we'll drop them in the group for everybody. And yes, all of these sessions are being recorded. As a matter of fact, at the moment, give me 2 seconds, guys, because I am going to stream this. I'm going to begin streaming this live into the Facebook group.
Hi.
But there is going to be a recorded version that'll be all nice and cleaned up that we'll be sending out to everybody. All right. So let's take it from the top. And guys, here, feel free to drop it in the chat. I'm just looking through our messages here for goals. So who here is just looking to up their listing game? So you're looking to take it, say, from 10 listings to 20 listings or 20 listings to 40 versus who's here to maybe take their very first listing. This will give us a good idea of what we want to provide you guys. Okay, we've got Amber that wants to go from 14 to 22, 6 to 20. Lana, awesome, taking her first listing. 0 to 22. Okay, awesome. Josh, 10 to 30. We've got a 28 to 60. That's my kind of number right there. 10 to 30 again. All right, guys. So let's talk briefly over about the next 15 minutes, and then we're going to be bringing on Fred Weaver, who has listed thousands of homes over the course of his career. Okay. So what are the basic fundamental skill sets that you need as a listing agent? And feel free to unmute, you guys, and drop your answers in the chat. What do you feel are some of the basic fundamental skill sets that you need to be a top producing listing agent?
Consistency.
Love it. Consistency at what?
Everything. Everything.
Right. So let's break that down a little bit. So when you say everything, what are the things that you specifically feel like you need to get more consistent at? I see exposure, discipline, lead generation. Beverly, yes. Finding clients, follow-up, confidence and mindset. Yes, Steph, who just said confidence and mindset. Okay, winner, chicken dinner, except I'm vegan. So I'll eat fake chicken dinner. So who here feels like they've got a 100% dialed in, you can't touch me mindset when it comes to taking new listings? Does everybody just have an ironclad mindset, or do you guys feel like you might need a little help in that area?
I need so much help.
Hey,
I feel like I go in and I give a great presentation, and then somebody just somehow outshines me who has only been a realtor like for a few months or a year. And I'm like, what the heck?
Oh,
I've been doing this 16 years.
okay. So mindset for Rachel, and you guys, I couldn't agree more. So I'd like to take just a second with you guys and talk about, we're going to spend a little time on how do you build a rock solid mindset around taking more listings. And let me ask one more question, guys, and we'll probably do this as a poll. Who here actually is not sure they even want to be a listing agent, who feels more like, listings are hard, or they're hard to sell. Obviously not so much in this market, or they're hard to land, or I'm not sure that it feels more challenging than working with buyers. Do we have anybody in here that's struggling with just the idea of switching to becoming more of a listing agent versus buyer's agent?
I kind of hate for sale by owners. Like, I just think they're idiots.
So here's the good news.
And that's your specialty. For
So
sale
I've
by
got
owners is
one.
Bella's specialty.
They are my superpower. And I've got
Wow.
Stephen, we've got Sibel. Yeah, a lot of people, right, are struggling around this issue. So let's talk about this for a second, guys. One is because you've decided you're going to become more listing focused in your business does not mean for a second that you have to work with people you don't want to work with. And for sale by owners are not everybody's cup of tea by any means. So Rachel, I don't want you to feel like, hey, I've got to work with this kind of group in order to be specific with listings. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what's it take to build that rock solid mindset. Who here has a morning ritual or a morning routine that they go through just to build their mindset? Anybody? We've got a couple. Yep, I see a couple of hands. Feel free, you guys, to raise your hands too in the group. Now,
1 second, Bella. Just so everybody knows, the workbook there for the toolkit has been dropped into the group. So you can find it there so that you can get your hands on it and print it off, or at least you'll just have it in front of you.
oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So number one skill set. So in our workbook, you guys, I've broken out 11 skill sets that I think they're essential to master if you're going to become a powerful, consistent, dynamite listing agent. And the very first skill set is getting your mindset in order, right? So guys, this book, Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents. Has anybody heard of The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod? The first one, right? He sold millions and millions of copies. Okay, so that book was so popular, he started creating spin-off books for specific industries. So he wrote this one, The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents. Now, his co-authors were Jay Kinder and Michael Reese. He picked two of the top agents in the entire United States to co-author that book with him. Guys, they are our guest speakers for day 4 and day 5 of the listing challenge. So it's going to be super exciting. Now, they're actually going to be talking specifically about taking listings, not around mindset, but I encourage you all to get this book. Okay. So let me kind of run you guys through my standard morning. Now, guys, your morning routine does not need to look anything like my morning routine. You really need to customize it to yourself, but there are some basic things to put in there that are going to make sure that you are starting the day powerfully. Okay. Number one, depending on what time you get out of bed in the morning, and that time is up to you, right? Nobody's telling you got to get up at 5 a.m., although I do. Okay. And sometimes a little bit earlier, depending on what's going on that day. First thing I do is I get a little bit of exercise. Now, guys, I started with 10 minutes a day, no more, no less, 10 minutes a day. And if anybody in here is struggling with maybe getting into any kind of a powerful routine, I cannot recommend this highly enough. I use a little mini trampoline. Have you guys seen them? Those trampolines are only about this big around. It's in my home office and I jump on that. I started where I just would jump on the trampoline for 10 minutes. Now, I will let you guys go do the research on why that is so extraordinarily good for your body, no matter what kind of physical shape you're in currently. But you guys, it's hard to be grouchy jumping on a trampoline. I don't know if any of you have tried this, but if any of you are like me, sometimes you wake up, do you just spring out of bed like, ta-da, I'm in the best mood today? Anybody?
No.
I wish.
But yeah, that's, you guys, that's not how I roll out of bed. Okay. Usually I roll out of bed stressed out. Like the first thing that hits me is stress. Now that's totally natural, you guys. Cortisol is highest first thing in the morning. Okay. So we've got to kind of combat that natural reaction, right? And so Lisa was just asking where the workbook is. Hey, Lisa, no worries. We dropped it in the Facebook group.
I just got it. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. So 10 minutes of something, guys, and I don't care what you do. Take the dog for a walk, run around your apartment, do jumping jacks, like go for a jog or do what I do and get yourself a little freaking trampoline because they're a riot, okay? Then I do a few minutes of just, I know this is hard to believe, you guys, but I sit down and I shut up. Okay. 10 minutes, and starting with 10 minutes might be too strenuous for you in the beginning. Okay. If you can't do 10, start with 1 minute. Okay. If you can do 1 minute, then go to 2 minutes. Okay. Of sitting in perfect silence where you just sit there and you just give yourself permission to catch your breath, organize your thoughts, try not to get too attached to whatever is flying through your head at the moment. Just mark it and let it go. But a few moments of silence in what is otherwise usually a hectic and busy day. This has been proven, you guys, through about 312,000 studies that it'll help you manage your stress better. Your memory will get better. You'll stay calmer throughout the day. It's just going to improve your life altogether. Now, the next thing that I do, guys, I know a lot of people love to journal. Oh, and we've got Fred Weaver in the house. We're going to be letting him in. As a matter of fact, if one of you
He's in. I just admitted him.
If one of you guys can find him, and in 3 minutes, let's spotlight Fred. Then the next thing that I do, you guys, is I journal. Now, I don't journal like thoughts and feelings, although that's perfectly brilliant thing to journal about. I usually journal like, what are my top things I have to get done today? What am I like? So I can be crystal clear when I start my day. And I put a few things in there that I'm grateful for. You guys, this only takes me a couple of minutes, right? And then I absolutely positively have to do affirmations, guys, because I don't know if you're like me, but the voice in my head on a daily basis is like, you're a fat idiot. And I'm like, who the hell do you think you're talking to? You can't talk to me that way. I am a winner. I'm powerful. I'm lean. I'm in shape, and I'm a badass listing agent. I don't know who you think you're talking to. Okay. But sometimes we have to tell that other voice in our head to shut up, and we have to feed it something wonderful and positive instead. So we are going to circle back around to the next set of listing skills. I don't want to spend a whole lot more time on morning mindset, but guys, that's skill number 1 out of 11 skills that we've identified in that workbook. So make sure you grab it. And then really quick, you guys, I am going to share my screen. And then if we can have Nico or Tamra, if one of you would be so kind as to, while I share, let's spotlight Fred. And I just want to introduce all of you to Mr. Fred Weaver. So Fred graciously, with absolutely next to no notice, agreed to participate in this awesome challenge with us today. The way I met Fred, you guys, was I had stepped down from managing and decided to start up my own real estate team. And I needed somebody who'd been doing it for years, who was doing it at a massive high level, to give me a little bit of coaching and counseling, right? Because I didn't know what systems to use. I wasn't sure the best way to organize the team. And Fred was a great friend of my business partner, so I reached out to him. Best thing that I've ever done in my career, you guys. So here's what you're not going to guess about Fred. He's so down to earth. And he's so awesome that you're probably not going to realize that they're ranked 66th in the entire country out of 2,000 2 million licensed agents. That's how much production these guys are doing right now. Okay. They close here. I put tens of millions, but they're usually well over 100 million in volume closed annually. They typically close 500 plus transactions per year. Guys, here, we're happy to get 20, 36 more listings this year. And Fred's closing like 500 plus, okay? And he is also the co-host of the Kevin and Fred podcast. It is, if you guys aren't tuned into it now, go follow the Kevin and Fred podcast. They interview some of the best agents in the business, but they also interview business people from all different industries to get you the very best and the most cutting edge stuff that's going on. They just had Gary Vaynerchuk on for the second time. So Kevin and Fred they are just the bomb diggity. So I'm going to kill my screen share, guys. And were we able to spotlight Fred so we can?
I just barely got his spotlight on, and I'm now pinning him. So
I love teamwork's what makes the dream work, baby.
this seriously, you have to have a tribe.
Okay, we got the man of the hour.
Awesome. What an intro. Thank you so much. Good morning to most of you. Let's start here. I don't know where everybody's at. I know Belladonna is in Utah this morning, but go ahead and type into the chat box. Tell me where you're at. I recognize a few names. My buddy Travis is here from Georgia. I saw my friend Debbie, who is here from Ohio. We got people from all over the country though. So where is everybody at? Oh, look at this. Wow.
Where
we
is
got a lot
the
of Utah,
chat box?
but yeah, we got Nashville, man, Rhode Island. This is awesome. Cool. Thousand Oaks.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, good afternoon to
We got
many
from
of
all
you.
over.
Good morning to some of you guys. Good to see you. Great to be a part of this. Belladonna, just so I'm clear, Tamra, we got about half an hour, right? We're wrapping this up at the top of the hour. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. They've got a great week planned ahead for you. I'm honored to be the speaker here this morning, or to be, I guess, the person that gets to bring you some great topics here today. So I have a question for you guys, and you guys were very gracious to post in the comments here. How many of you guys have what we would call an iBuyer in your market? Go ahead and type in the chat box if you've got an iBuyer. And if you do, go ahead and just tell us who it is. Do you have an open door? Do you have an offer pad? Do you have another company in your market doing some sort of iBuyer work? I want to kind of get a feel this morning for where everybody's at. And if you don't know what I mean when I say iBuyer, that's all right. We're going to cover that here in a minute, but I just want to kind of get a feel.
Open door's been heavy in our market in Utah.
So we got some nothings. We got some open doors. Okay. A lot of our Utah folks. Okay, cool. Awesome. Tawny is obviously very excited about open door based on that reaction. Hi, Tawny. Knock. You guys have knock. Okay, cool. Express offers, ribbon. Okay, cool. Very good. Connor is lost. No problem. We're going to talk about what an iBuyer is here in a second, so don't worry about it. Perfect. Just want to get a feel for kind of where everybody's at. Awesome. Okay. Well, let me start here. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. And Phoenix, if you guys don't know, is kind of what we consider the hotbed of real estate disruption. So when you guys think of these companies like Open Door and OfferPad and Zillow Offers, which I know is now recently deceased, but when you think of those companies, right, all those companies started in Phoenix. That's where they went to prove their model. So I've been living in a market now for over 5 years where we have real estate and listing disruption in our market. And some of you guys already have it going on in your market, and some of you guys are going to start feeling it pretty soon. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what we call modern selling solutions. You might want to write that down, modern selling solutions. What do I mean when I talk about modern selling solutions? Well, most of us have been to different classes in the past, and we've heard people talk about listing strategies, and we've heard talk about your database, and we've heard talk about, pre-qualifying the listing and some other great strategies that many of which will probably be covered later this week. But I want to talk a little bit today about modern seller solutions. And before I do, I'm going to tell you guys a little story. So my wife and I got married in 2007. Okay. And you're going, what does this have to do with listings, Fred? Hang with me. It's all right. We got married in 2007. All right. We got married in San Diego. Anybody here from San Diego or love San Diego as much as I do? I live in Phoenix, got married in San Diego. So did a little bit of a destination wedding. We only invited 50 people to our wedding, 50. I said no to aunts and uncles. I said no to some friends of mine. Like there was only 50 people, and that was total from my wife and my side, right? And one of those people that was at my wedding was a really good mentor and friend of mine that befriended me when I was in college. His name's Brian. And I went to Arizona State University in Tempe, graduated there. Brian was my mentor the first year I was at college, and he's since become a really close friend. Now, I tell you all that to say that I had this aha moment about 3 years ago when Brian called me one day and said, Fred, I've got to admit something to you. And I said, what's up, Brian? What's going on? He sounded pretty depressed. Didn't sound like he was in a real good spot, if I'm being honest. He said, I recently sold my house to Zillow. I said, what? And you didn't call me? He goes, I did, and he's just backtracking, right? And so this light bulb moment went on for me that if I could have a sphere of influence where I'm a guy that only invited 50 people to my wedding, and I promise you all 50 of those are still in my database, still in my sphere of influence. I've got gifts that go out to them quarterly. I do client appreciation events. I make phone calls to them once or twice a year. I go to lunch and breakfast and dinner and coffee with those people. But if somebody in my sphere, right, who went to my 50-person wedding could sell their house without calling me, can you imagine just the hit that took to me? I went, what is going on here, right? And so the light bulb went on for me is that there's some messaging going on in many of our markets. And many of you are hearing this messaging from Opendoor. Many of you are hearing it from OfferPad. You're hearing it from other traditional investors. You're hearing it from other brokerages like Homey and guys like that you don't need a traditional real estate agent to sell your home anymore, that you can sell easier, quicker, with more convenience for top dollar, without the hassle of showings, without the hassle of open houses. And whether or not you like those companies, for a minute here today, I'm going to ask you to put aside your opinions and your preferences and your thoughts on if those companies are right or not. Okay. We're not talking today about whether or not their marketing is exactly 100% they deliver on it. We're talking about, is the marketing catching hold? And it is, right? If my friend Brian, in a moment of weakness, thought he needed to sell his house quickly and didn't call one of his best friends in the world, but instead sold to Zillow, it tells me something that marketing and that messaging works, right? And the aha moment for me in that whole scenario, in that situation, was I realized and I recognized in that moment that I had to be more than just a traditional real estate agent. Now, what do I mean by traditional real estate agent? What I mean is I got to be more than a guy that just runs out to people's house, throws a sign in the front yard, hires the professional photographer, and puts the home in the MLS. Because that way of selling, while it does still work for the majority of people, it is not necessarily the way that every seller in today's market is going to sell. Can we agree on that? Like, whether we agree that the open, right, Belladonna, whether we think the open doors and the offer pads are good, bad, ugly, indifferent, the fact of the matter remains that they're out there and their marketing and their messaging is working. All right, let's use the chat box for a minute. I've got a question for you guys. Now, this may or may not seem like a big number to you, but how many iBuyer purchases and sales do you think occurred nationally last year? How many iBuyer purchases and sales do you think occurred nationally? Some of you guys don't have these guys in your market, so bear with that in mind. But how many of you guys think happened? Let's get a couple guesses going. Got a 25% of the market. I've never heard of an iBuyer. What else? Let's see here. Anybody else?
We're gonna 25.
100,000 Morales. Okay, cool. I like that guess. Perfect. No clue. Awesome. All right. Well, here's the number, and you guys are not going to be blown away by this number. Okay. But it's growing, and that's what I want you to hear. There were 70,000 home sale purchases and sales in the US that were conducted by an iBuyer last year. And let me preface that for a minute. That does not include the institutional investors, okay? So let's define some things for a minute. What's an iBuyer and what's an institutional buyer? Some of you guys might want to take notes right now, okay? So an iBuyer is essentially a company that helps facilitate the sale of a home for a seller in an easy manner by which they make them an offer sight unseen, okay? They get some pictures on the home from the seller. They get some information from the seller. They make an offer on the home sight unseen. They let the seller pick their closing date. They charge the seller fees, okay? And then they allow the seller to move on. Now, the iBuyer, okay, this is the key with iBuyers. iBuyers do not hold on to these houses. They then turn around and, if you will, flip them, meaning that they sell them on the open market, okay? So an iBuyer is not a company that is buying to hold, they are buying to sell, okay? So they're basically just buying at a little bit of a discount with some fees built in to facilitate the ease of a sale and a transaction for a seller, and then they're putting that home immediately back on the market. Some of you guys maybe have never had a seller that sold to an Opendoor or an OfferPad, right? But you have gone out and you've showed houses that are owned by OfferPad or Opendoor. Those are iBuyers that have purchased somebody else's house and now they're bringing it back to the market, okay? So that's an iBuyer. Now we could go, I mean, I could teach for hours on this stuff, guys, but what I want you to know is just the basics for now. Okay. We're going to kind of go a little higher level. Okay. We're not worried about does the iBuyer make money or whatever else. We're just talking about market share. Okay. Now in the Phoenix, Arizona market last year, okay, they made up 1.3% nationally of all sales, but in the Phoenix market last year, they made up nearly 5% of all sales in the Phoenix market. Okay. So think about that for a minute. The market that they've been in the most, that they've got the longest traction in, they're accounting for 1 in 20 sales. That's pretty significant if you stop and think about it. So that's an iBuyer for you, a company that essentially comes in and makes it easy for a seller to sell their home without having to list it on the MLS, without having to deal with showings, without having to deal with open houses. That company lets the seller then choose their closing date, and then that company then resells the home back on the MLS to another end user buyer. Okay. Then we have what's called institutional buyers. And we're not going to talk as much about institutional buyers today, but institutional buyers are essentially large conglomerates. Think big money, right? Anybody heard of BlackRock as an example? BlackRock's a big financial institution based out of New York on the East Coast, right? They buy and sell all kinds of stuff. They invest. Tons of people have their money in them. Well, BlackRock is also in the residential ownership business as well, right? So we have this other segment of companies out there we call institutional buyers. Okay. And institutional buyers are money that is buying homes throughout the country. Okay. And they're buying to hold. So they're purchasing property off the MLS or privately direct from seller. And then they are holding on to that property. Okay. So it's now a part of their rental portfolio. So they're taking essentially the mom and pop sort of, real estate investor approach, but they're doing it at a mass scale. So we have lots of companies out there like America's Home for Rent. I could list them all off. It doesn't matter. I use that one because maybe you guys have heard of that one. We have a list of them. In the Phoenix market, there's over 15 to 20 different funds that are buying homes in the Phoenix market. We had a month last year, it was October of 2021, where those institutional buyers I just mentioned, they bought 800 different homes. 800 homes in 1 month, guys. They made up almost 10% of our total purchases in the Phoenix area. So why am I talking about this? Because there's a lot of disruption going on in our markets. It's no longer just competing against the other broker or the listing agent in your farm area, right? For that particular listing, we're now competing with billion-dollar investment companies. We're competing with companies that have huge marketing budgets, and they're essentially putting out this messaging to sellers that says, we make it easier to buy or sell a home, right? Contact us today. And so we've got to know that stuff's coming, whether it's in your market or not, or whether you're aware of it or not, it's going on around the country right now. So modern seller solutions, what does that mean? What are we going to talk about for the next 20 minutes here today? We're going to talk about positioning ourselves as the real estate professional, positioning ourselves between the homeowner and bringing all available solutions to market. What do I mean by that? Bringing all available solutions to the seller. Okay. This is a positioning conversation. The problem with my friend Brian, let's go back to my story, right? The problem with my friend Brian is he thought all I could do for him was list his home in the MLS. So that's why Brian didn't call me. He wanted a quick sale, and he immediately got marketing messaging from Zillow, and he sold his house to Zillow quickly to get money and get out, right? But had I been messaging to Brian, hey, Brian, there's a lot of iBuyer activity in the market. There's people out there that want to buy your home. If you're at any level thinking of selling, we can facilitate a quick cash sale to an investor. We can facilitate a sale traditionally on the MLS. We can facilitate some other sales off the MLS, right? These are the things that we want to get out there and communicate to our clients. So the messaging that my team and I use today in our marketing messaging, in our phone calls to sellers, and our home valuation tools is come to us, come to Group 4610, my real estate team. We will bring all available solutions in the market to you. We will present you with all the different options to sell your home. And then we will let you choose, and we will empower you to choose the solution that works best for you. Are you guys following me on that? So let me give you another real life example. Okay. I've got another friend in my database. Her name's Lisa. Her husband is Robin. They live a couple blocks over from me in Mesa, Arizona. And they're really good friends of my wife, right? So they're in my database. They get a HomeBot email from me every month. They get a postcard dropped in their mailbox from me every month. They get invited to my client appreciation events, right? They get my viral marketing newsletter that I send out once a month. They're getting all this messaging from me, right? But the messaging that's in that marketing isn't just, hey guys, we can go ahead and put your home on the MLS for top dollar today if you want to sell. The messaging is, we are bringing modern selling solutions to the table. And these modern selling solutions involve more than just a sign in your front yard and your home on the MLS, because to some people that doesn't sound good. So Robin and Lisa called me a couple of weeks ago and they said, Fred, you know, we get obviously your HomeBot valuation tool. Check that out, by the way. That's a little small tip for you. HomeBot.ai. I think it's the greatest marketing email you could send out there to just warm up your database and have a sense for when somebody might be looking to sell. I'll type it in the chat box so you guys don't have to wonder what it is. HomeBot.ai. Check it out later. Anyway, so they called me and they said, hey, we're thinking of selling. We're thinking of moving out of state. Robin's got a new job offer in Texas. And Lisa calls me and she says, Fred, Robin thinks we should just go to OfferPad and get an offer direct. And I said, Lisa, I'm so glad you called, right? Even though my messaging is going out there saying we can do all these solutions, Lisa goes, Robin just wants to call them. He didn't even really want me to call you, but I know you could have a conversation and advise us. I said, Lisa, look, you can call OfferPad, but what you don't know is there's about 10 or 15 other companies out there that might be interested in making an offer on your home. So if you guys just want to go get one offer, you're right, you don't need me for that. But what I want to tell you, Lisa, and I consulted with her a little bit, I said, what you got to know is when you reach out to a company like OfferPad, they don't have your best interest in mind. Yes, they may be bringing an offer to your home, and that sounds great because they may want to buy your home, but they don't represent you in your best interest, right? They don't have a fiduciary responsibility to you. So I consulted with her and I walked her through the process. I said, we can do this, Lisa. You don't have to sign a listing agreement with me. You don't have to agree to sell your home. You don't even have to agree to pay me anything. But would you be willing to let me reach out to several different investors, both iBuyer Solutions and institutional investors? And would you be willing to let my team and I see how many offers we can get and then come back to you and present you with all available options in the market? Okay. So that's just what we did. Just last week, we sat down, we got 2 or 3 different offers. There's a question right now about purchasing a property in certain price points. Yeah. Lisa and Robin's house is right around the $700,000 price point. And so it does eliminate some of these institutional and some of these iBuyer solutions in many markets, but we were still able to produce for them 3 off-market offers. And when we presented them to them, we also presented them with an option of what it would look like to go on the MLS. Now, mind you, Lisa on the phone with me 2 weeks ago, Fred, we do not want to list the home on the MLS. I don't want showings. I don't want to deal with that hassle. We just want to get an offer and we want to sell and move on and pick our closing date. No problem, Lisa. I'm going to put all the available options in front of you and I'm going to empower you to choose what's best for you. Well, Belladonna, wouldn't you believe when I presented her with those 3 different options, my team and I did, they weren't too happy with them. They liked the option of what we might be able to get them on the MLS. So what we're doing right now is we're scheduling photos for this week and we'll be listing their home on the MLS. And so I'm sharing these stories with you guys. I'm not necessarily giving you all the scripts and everything else. I'm giving you the context and my mindset behind how we talk to sellers in today's market, right? We're telling them that we're a fiduciary, we're a real estate professional that can bring all available options to the market, and we can represent you in your best interest through whatever option you offer. Now, I know some of you are kind of wondering, well, how do you guys get paid? Anybody wondering that? I'm the only one wants to know how you get paid. Okay, a couple hands went up. All right, cool. So a lot of these iBuyer companies now are very, what I would call realtor friendly. Early on, they weren't. They didn't really want real estate agents to bring properties to them. They thought their little marketing machine would do good. But what they've realized over time is it's better for them to work with us as agents than against us. And I'll tell you this, I'm a fan of working with them. I've removed my opinion on whether I think these companies are good or bad. Some of you guys are still stuck. Like, Tani, I love you, but you're probably going, Open Door sucks. And here's my opinion. If you share that Open Door sucks messaging, and Tani and I know each other, so I think she's all right with me picking on her a little bit. But if you share that Open Door sucks messaging with your market, what's going to happen is somebody's aunt or uncle is going to go sell to Open Door. They're going to have a great experience. They're going to talk about it at the dinner table, one of the upcoming holidays or family vacations. And then you as the real estate professional are going to look pretty bad when you told them that these options were terrible and their close family members and friends said they had a great experience. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is remove your lens around whether this is good, bad, right, wrong, whether it makes the most amount of money or it doesn't, and just recognize that as a professional, if you positioned yourself to bring all options in the market to the table, how much more would you open yourself up to be able to work with all sellers in the market as well, right? This messaging is obviously working. They bought and sold 70,000 houses last year. To some of you, that doesn't seem like a big number, and I understand that, but they're only in certain markets across the US. And this whole thing is growing, guys. This whole iBuyer market is growing. Again, started in Phoenix 5 years ago, going to continue growing. So here's how we get paid. OfferPad and Open Door as an example, Belladonna, when we bring them a property, we can actually go enter it directly into their online portal. We can say that we're a real estate agent and they will agree to pay us compensation. Now that compensation is going to change in different markets. So I'm not going to be here to tell you how much compensation that looks like. It may change tomorrow because these iBuyer companies wake up one day and some days they don't have enough leads. So they're incentivizing realtors with higher commissions. Some days they got more houses than they know what to do with. And so they're lowering that commission. Sounds like a little bit of a new build community, doesn't it? Right? New construction, anyone? But anyway, so we want to know that we can get paid by them. The other way we can get paid is that we can actually tell our seller clients that we can represent them through the process, right? So we can just get paid for getting their house under contract. That's one way, but we can also get paid for representing them contract to close. Now, if anybody's ever dealt with an open door or an OfferPad, what you may have realized or experienced that somewhere in there is they're investors, right? So they make a lot of offers sight unseen. And then what happens is after they come out and inspect the property, I see some heads nodding, right? They tend to say, well, we need to reduce our offer by XYZ, or we're going to need you to make these repairs with a licensed contractor, right? And part of their game is just getting sellers under contract, knowing that they can negotiate a little bit of a lower price, right? And so sellers, when they sell to an Open Door or an OfferPad or any other iBuyer out there, they're not represented by these companies. These companies don't have their best interest in mind. So they tend to beat them up a little bit on purchase price. So what I'm going to advise you guys to do is to know that you can go out there and get paid by those companies, and that's great. But what you also may want to do is bring your services to the table to actually come up with a fee to represent somebody from contract to close. So as an example, we had an iBuyer situation. This was about 12 to 18 months ago, where the iBuyer came back and said, now we need to drop the price. It was like $18,000 or $20,000. The house needs a new roof. And so what did we do? Well, we represented the seller, okay? And the seller was paying us, I think maybe like a 1% commission or something like that to represent them from contract to close. So what we did is we sent out 3 licensed roof contractors to go get bids. And we came back with those bids and we presented them to the iBuyer. And we said, look, we know you want an $18,000 to $20,000 credit, but this is a $3,000 to $5,000 roof fix that you guys are talking about here. And so what did they do? They agreed to drop the price $3,000 to $5,000 instead of $18,000. Now, do you think our client was happy they paid us a little bit extra to have us managing that scenario? Do you think they would have actually created that without us? Absolutely not, right? So this is where we can really play the middleman, guys. We can be the real estate professional. And I think what you need to know over time here is that the more flexible you are with your offerings, the more different ways you're willing to get paid and the more available options you are to bring to the table to the seller, the longer you're going to actually stay in this game. I think what we're going to continue to see is a lot more messaging at sellers, a lot more disruption. And so we've got to not be that, kind of stale dinosaur. Hey, I always have done it this way, but we got to be willing to go out there and learn. And we got to be willing to go out and investigate more things. Belladonna, quick question for you. I think you mentioned that you wanted us to give some homework today. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes. Homework
Okay, cool.
assignments daily.
All right. So here's what we got for your homework today. And then I'm going to open it up to a little Q&A because I could go a lot of different directions, but I'm just going to see what you guys want to talk about more on this topic. So here's your homework for today. I'm going to give you a couple of different companies and a couple of different websites and things I want you to go look out. Actually, I'm not going to give you the websites. I'm going to give you the company names. You're all really smart. You can go into Google and type it in and find the websites. Okay. So number one, I want you to go look up Open Door. Okay. Open Door, spelled just like it sounds. Okay. I want you to go look up OfferPad. OFFERPAD, one word, OfferPad. Okay. And then I'm going to give you a couple other companies I want you to look at. There's a company out of Colorado called Zavvie, ZAVVIE. I'm not telling you to go purchase their system. I'm not telling you to go buy anything, but what I want you to do is I want you to look at what Zavvie is doing for real estate brokerages and for real estate professionals, okay? They are essentially a syndicator, meaning that they're allowing people to buy their subscription service and take your property, like Lisa and Robin's property, and run it through their program. And then their program comes back with all the options. So if you as an agent don't know who's buying in your market or don't really know where to start, you can go to these companies that will syndicate tons and tons of offers. So why don't you go look up Zavvie, ZAVVIE. And then there's another company based out of Phoenix I want you to go do a little research on. It's called Zoodealio. Let me see if I can actually figure out how to spell that. ZOO. I think it's the worst marketing name in real estate. But anyway, Zoodealio, ZOODEALIO. ZOODEALIO. DEALIO. So Zoo Deal EO, IO at the end. And here's the thing. I don't know how long the homework assignment is or whatever, but I'm just going to make up a number. I'm going to encourage you to spend 30 minutes minimum looking through some of these guys' websites. Okay. I want you to look through the websites. I want you to read up on what they do and what they offer. Okay. And I want you just to get a sense for the messaging that their marketing is. Also, if you're not familiar, if they're buying in your market, see if there's any nearby markets that they're buying in, like Open Door as an example. They tell you all the markets that they're buying in across the US. They tell you some of the new markets they're going into. So go spend a half an hour this next week, just kind of looking at some of the messaging and the marketing and what some of these companies are doing, because this is the stuff we're competing with. We don't have to recreate the wheel. We can just take their messaging and their marketing, and we can plug and play it right into our listing presentations and right into our messaging to sellers. Well, all we're trying to do is reposition ourselves. We don't want it to be iBuyer and consumer. We want to put ourselves right in the middle, right? iBuyer, ourselves, and then consumer. We want to be right in the middle of these two people to help facilitate the sale. All right. I know I just covered a lot. That's like, I could have gone on for 3 hours, guys. There's so many little nuances we can go into here. Let me mention one other thing. There's a friend of mine. His name is Dan Noma. He runs a company here in Phoenix, Arizona that does some iBuyer training. I will go ahead and mention that. I don't get paid for anything like that or anything of that nature. But if you want to go understand a little bit more of his stuff, you can go research Dan Noma, and he's got an iBuyer training course out there. I also have a Facebook group called Next Level Agents that you're welcome to join. Inside that group, we've recorded a couple of different podcasts and different recordings talking about iBuyers. Dan has also talked a little bit about his company and the training that they offer. So feel free to check that out. Dan Noma, DANNOMA, NOMA. All right, I got 5 minutes here. Let's see what we got as far as questions. Let's see what's coming in. All right. Sunday. Yeah, Sunday's another company out there. Thank you for mentioning that. So definitely check that one out. Shay, I don't currently work with Zoodealio, although I know one of the owners of Zoodealio. I do. My team and I do have a contract with Zavvy. I think they just make it a little easier to present these multiple options to companies. So ZAVVIE. Yeah, my friends were going to sell to Zillow. Yeah, that was when Zillow Offers was still around. Again, that was about 3 years ago now when my friend Brian sold to Zillow. Zillow Offers has taken themselves out of the picture. That's a whole nother can that we could open up here about profitability and everything else, but we're not going to today. All these guys are trying to do is prove a model. Once they prove the model, they'll figure out how to make money off of it. A lot of times these guys are taking a loss buying and selling the home, and they're making their money on the mortgage and the title and the other ancillary services. So it sounds a lot like a lot of real estate brokerages out there. They don't make a lot of money, but they make their money on title and mortgage and things of that nature. Good question, Deborah, on Express Offers. So Express Offers is an EXP Realty platform. There's also a Keller Offers platform out there for KW agents, and other brokerages have some similar offerings. The Express Offers platform works with a company that's nationally that is really focused more on buying beat up properties, more of that like 70% of ARV, like kind of that type of property. If you don't know what I mean when I say that, they're a little bit more of that, like we want the ugly house and we want a deep discount on it, and we're going to fix the ugly house up. Whereas Open Door and OfferPad are looking for a little bit of the cleaner house that doesn't require a lot of repairs that they can put back on the market. Seller didn't pay to, yeah, Amber, I think good question. Do we have experience where the seller didn't pay us to represent them, but they took an offer you brought from one of these entities? Yes, we have. That hasn't been the majority of our case. We really go in and stress the need for the seller to be represented. Like we can just refer them to the company and get paid like a referral, right? But I really believe in the representation from contract to close. But I think there's been a time or two where we've had somebody that's kind of turned us down and basically, not necessarily wanted that representation, if you will. Yeah, bridge loans. Yeah, so that's a bridge loans is a whole nother conversation we're not going to get into today. But if you're not familiar with what a bridge loan is, that might be some more research for you to do. Zavvy does have some bridge loan options out there, and some of these other iBuyer companies are coming out with them. There's solutions that allow somebody to buy a house before they sell and kind of bridge that time in between. Because as you guys know, there's not a lot of inventory out there, so there's a lot of people that would sell today. They just don't know where they would go.
We have a question from-
Homebot.ai. Yeah, just check it out. They've got videos. Just go ahead and look for them. Lisa, you'll see some videos. They're essentially a home valuation, but way more than that. It's more of like a net worth statement for your home or a financial statement for your home that shows up every month. And it's got a lot of great integration you can do with a preferred lender. Sorry, go ahead there, Belladonna. I was just trying to get as many questions in as I could.
Yeah, we had one from Jen Rains that we touched on briefly earlier, which was a lot of these iBuyers will come in with what looks like a very attractive price. You're like, whoa, and I don't have to list it. And then during that due diligence period, they smack you down with a heavy discount once they've actually had somebody go through and put eyes on the property.
Yeah, so and I appreciate you saying that. There's a whole science, and I just don't have time to teach it today, but I'll quickly say this. If you do go take some of Dan Noma's training out there on iBuyers, he has some really great training on how to take great pictures of your home, how to properly disclose, maybe repairs and things that need to be made. The problem with this whole experience between the seller and the iBuyer is if you don't disclose a lot or the iBuyer doesn't get their eyes on the property, then they go in and they find problems. And that's where these deep discounts come from. But if you do a good job, like we take pictures of the air conditioners, right? And how old they are. We take pictures of the hot water heaters and how old they are. We take pictures of any damage to the property. You really want to do a good job of documenting the actual, the actual, what the property actually looks like today, right? It will cut down on some of those deep discounts that people sometimes get hit with. Tawny says, I have an upcoming listing for a home where market value is 510 and open door offered 580 as is. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, you know what, Tawny? So, what you'll see in some of these markets is these guys are reaching and stretching and sometimes actually paying more than fair market value. So a lot of times we think discount, but especially with institutional buyers, iBuyers, not as much, but you will see it from time to time. Like there's an open door house that was purchased in my neighborhood recently, and it sold for $20,000 or $30,000 less than they bought it for, right? So that was the case of them not making money on a home, most likely. But yeah, you can be surprised. And that's where I say, like, remove your whole blinders or your opinions around whether this is good or bad. Just present these options to the seller and position yourself as somebody that can bring all options to the table and empower the seller to decide. All right, guys, I think we hit our time limit, so I don't want to go over too much. I talked fast. I threw a lot at you. I get it. Your homework for the next week is just to read up more on this. If you want to, one more publication out there, if you want to write this down, I'll type his name in. It's a little harder. There's a gentleman out there by the name of Mike Delpreet. I'll type it in. Mike Delpreet has some really great research and really great written content on iBuyers. Some of it's free. Some of it does have a cost. But I just encourage you, spend a half an hour over the next week. Or if that's homework that has to be done tonight, I don't know, I'll let Belladonna say that, but spend a half an hour and research some of these companies, just get familiar with them. I think the biggest inhibitor to most people is they don't know what these things are, and therefore they kind of think they're bad without researching them or knowing anything about it. So go out there and just learn a little bit more. I think it will, if nothing else, empower you just to talk a little bit better about it going forward.
That was awesome, Fred.
All right. I squeezed a lot in. There you go.
I'm shocked at how much I learned. And I thought I was pretty familiar with iBuyers. I mean, because half my partners are investors.
Yeah.
And so, but full disclosure, guys, Nico, who's on this call, we just had a listing that we're representing them on the buy side, go out to list the property, and Dad decided to list with Open Door instead. And I actually didn't know that you could represent them through that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so absolutely. And again, you either get paid by the iBuyer or you get paid direct from the seller to represent them, right? That's just a listing agreement for one contract or whatever. Or you get paid from both, right? And so, I think a lot of times people go, oh, I don't want to do that. It's going to cut into my commissions or whatever else. But hey, if you don't have to market the home and list it on the MLS, you've got lower costs, and it's a lot easier to facilitate one offer, and represent somebody than it is maybe to go on MLS. Now, I still believe in, typically where you're going to get the most amount for your money is in this market, go to the MLS, right? There's an inventory shortage in all of our markets across the US. So you're going to field multiple offers most likely and get the highest and best offer, but that's not what every seller wants. And that's what we have to remember. And that's what we have to learn is that, these companies exist because people use them. whether or not we think they're a good idea. People use them. So you might as well bring these options to the table and figure out how to get a piece of the pie versus get left behind.
I actually think that was brilliant, and incorporating, like, I know we'd asked for everybody to tell us what's the one takeaway that you take from each day, but actually incorporating that entire iBuyer messaging into the listing presentation. So all of a sudden, instead of them being the enemy, it's just one more arrow in your quiver when you're sitting down with clients. And then I think when you, like you said, if you can help them facilitate getting several offers, then okay, you take a look at them and they are what they are. And then you compare it to, or you could list on the MLS. And this is what
it's a net sheet with multiple columns. That's all we're talking about. I mean, this is where we can get into deep on this, right? But it's a net sheet with multiple columns. This buyer wants to pay this. Their top dollar number looks really good, but their fees aren't so great. Here's the net amount of money to you, right? This buyer wants to pay a little less, but their fees are a little less. Here's the net amount of money to you. So, and this is what sellers can't do. They're not capable of necessarily taking in all these different offers and figuring out what's the best solution for them. At most, they're probably going to call one of these iBuyers. But if you can bring multiple options to the table, that's what they want. And I'll end by saying this, Belladonna, and then I'll run. But, for those of you that are still maybe not believers in all this, I challenge you to drive around your city or the biggest major metropolitan city next to you and look at the billboards that are out there, right? The Mark Spains of the world, the 72 Solds of the world, all their billboards are guaranteed offer programs, right? We'll get you X number of offers in X number of days. And so this messaging works, right? Open Doors messaging, Offer Pads messaging, Mark Spain's messaging. He's a big agent in the South. If you don't know him. 72 Sold is huge. Yeah, 72 Sold is a huge brokerage in Phoenix now that is starting to expand into other markets. Colorado, they just went into. So this messaging is resonating with sellers. And the reason you know that is because these big agents and big brokerages are spending hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of dollars every single month on their messaging. So you can't argue with the messaging. If you see it happening multiple places, it's working. So that's where we have to change our messaging, right? I can bring you multiple offers instead of I can sell your home on the MLS. Like I can bring you multiple offers maybe and give you options to sell before MLS or on MLS. Like we just have to shift the messaging a little bit. So, all right, guys, I know we're long, but thank you guys so much for having me.
Fred, can I ask you one last quick thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Belladonna.
You had mentioned it came up in the thing, a net sheet with multiple columns where you just run them down. Do you guys have a net sheet that you use?
So Zavvy provides one, and that's a service that we use. So they actually put on this, they essentially think of it almost like a mortgage broker, if you will, Belladonna, right? They go out and shop your loan around at multiple places and come back and give you a comparison tool. That's essentially what Zavvy is for different investor offers and different iBuyer offers. So we use theirs. We've just, we've created little Google Doc sheets in the past. I don't know. I'd have to see if we still have any. Dan Noma provides all these forms as well in his training. So that's another great place to just go learn about this and get educated. And so Morales just shared one right there in the comments. Look at that multiple offer spreadsheet.
Oh,
look at you, Morales.
How awesome is that? I'm going to click on it so that we can hang on to it. Or if somebody, there we go. And that way I'll drop it in the Facebook group as well. Because as you guys know, when we close the Zoom, we lose the chat. Oh man, it's dynamite. Here, I'm just going to move it to my other screen. Fred, thank you so much. So you guys, who here just learned a whole bunch for competing in this marketplace against people that we before kind of hated? What's so funny, Fred, is we started this out with mindset, and I feel like I had a giant mindset shift in 15 minutes. Did anybody else just have a giant mindset shift?
I love it.
And it's a total game changer, because I, to be honest, hadn't even thought to incorporate that at the angle that you guys are incorporating it. So thank you. I mean, that was huge knowledge.
You're welcome. I just shared 2 more links in the chat box. One is a previous recording that was shared to Facebook. I think it was just direct on one of my Facebook pages, my business partner and I. It's Dan Noma and my business partner, Kevin, talking more about iBuyers at a much slower pace than I just went through in 30 condensed minutes. And then the second thing is I just shared a link to our podcast, the Kevin and Fred Show. If you go on that Lisbon link, there's a search page right up there. Part of your 30 minutes of learning this week could just be typing in iBuyer right on our Kevin and Fred Show link there on Lisbon. And it'll pull up oh my goodness, I don't know, probably 20, 30, 40 different episodes of different things that we've done, where the word iBuyer has been mentioned, or different interviews we've done on iBuyers.
Wow. Fred, thank you
You're welcome.
much. That was huge. That might have been one of the biggest takeaways of the week. We're going to have to see, because
You got a stacked lineup coming, so I had to bring a little bit of fire this morning. So, all right, guys, I gotta run, go back to my family. But have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of this.
Thank you so much,
challenge.
Fred.
There's some great things ahead this week. So thanks for having me a part of it.
awesome. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, who here, like, seriously just had their mind blown by that first training?
Me.
Just never thought. You,
Whoa.
I
Because you
did
guys,
for sure.
you got to know, like, okay, now nobody turn me in, okay? Because I'm on grievance committee. So don't turn me in for saying this. But it used to be my hobby to just like hack on Zillow. It was like, I own a domain name called firezillow.com that I can no longer use. And like, if you guys saw, I might even have to change my comments, because I said no trash talking in this group unless you're talking about Zillow. And now I have to retract all of that because Zillow's a brokerage and we can't talk bad about other brokerages. It's part of the code of ethics. But the reason I share that is it incorporated my mindset around these kind of iBuyer programs. I've just universally seen them as the enemy. Okay. It never once occurred to me to incorporate them as part of a package to a seller. So let me ask, and I know we're 10 minutes over, but for anybody that wants to hang out for just a couple more seconds. And then here's the thing, guys, I'm going to do a quick summary of today's content. I'm going to drop the names that Fred mentioned, some of the companies. They're going to go in a recap email. Okay. Now I know not all the emails are getting out to everybody. We'll see if we can figure out what is going on with that. But I will put this out in a recap replay of the day, along with a recording of today's session. So you guys can go back and watch it again. And then you can just fast forward to the part that you really want to watch. But the big thing for me was, hey, there are a lot of times when an iBuyer just works better for a seller, and we can still help them, take care of them, and get paid. So you guys, what kind of scenarios can you think of where an iBuyer might actually be better for the seller than a traditional go on the MLS listing?
Maybe if they're embarrassed that their house is infested with meth.
Or right, or something like some kind of a physical condition issue, Rachel.
Something that I've
Yeah,
experienced a lot of too is security. People don't want the signs in front of their home anymore. They don't want the drive-bys because it's so crazy. A lot of my sellers are like, I don't want the chaos in front of my home.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And remind me, we'll cover it tomorrow. I have a phenomenal strategy for this insane market that allows you to list homes and only show it 2 times for 2 hours each showing. And that's it. So that your sellers don't have the insanity of like, you have to move out of your house for a week because we have 50 showings a day. Do you know what I mean? So you guys,
that's going to be in the class.
Yeah, I'll cover that tomorrow. It's awesome, you guys. And it works exceptionally well in our current market, where it's a strong seller's market.
I can testify to that because I already did it like a couple of weeks ago with one of my listing, what Bella's saying, and it works amazing.
Oh, so now we have a teaser. You guys got to come tomorrow, and I will walk you guys through the first half hour, exactly how you can do it. And your sellers are going to love it. So as we were saying,
did you make it up yourself?
No, I can't take credit for it. I just R&D'd it, rip off and duplicate.
Nice.
So, but it was such a great idea. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? It was brilliant. So then we have,
I think we have a question. Lori Aiken has her hand up.
Oh, let's see. Lori, go.
This was such an epiphany for me because I'm kind of where you are. I was looking at them as the enemy. and to incorporate all of that into what works best for them, it
Right.
totally changed everything.
Me too. Like, I seriously feel like I just had like this seismic shift in my head, because, and again, it seems foolish that I didn't think of this sooner because I work with investors. But I can think of half a dozen times off the top of my head when an iBuyer, as long as the price is within range, is better for a seller. For instance, probate, where the home has to be emptied out. It's just so much hassle. People are out of state, or even if they're on the other side of town and it's you know what I mean? They've got their job and their life to manage, or you've got people that need to like move now for whatever reason, job transfer or other time sensitive reasons. They don't have time to fool around. They just need the money and they need to get going to whatever else is waiting for them. Or people who are older. Something that we see a lot here in Utah is they need the money right now because they need to get into a retirement facility and they're not in a position to show the property. And, I can think of a lot of times when that would actually be a much better service to the client. And now we can be on the side of facilitating all those options for them instead of defending them. Like,
Right.
What a changer. So, and yeah, Eli, military relocations. Yeah, you get that DD 214 and you're out, right? You got to go. You can't wait around for your house to sell. And so I'm just looking, Doug, yes, we can download the chat as well. And so we'll try and make everything available for you guys. So it is 15 minutes after the hour. Who felt like this was an hour and 15 minutes well spent? Was it worth the time? Yes, right on. Okay, we're going to do nothing but go harder and faster and be more excited for the next 4 days because, guys, the lineup of speakers is insane. Okay, so tomorrow we've got Kevin Kaufman. He's going to give you a 10-minute hack to keep your listing appointments to 30 minutes or less and a 90% conversion ratio. Who wants to learn that? Yeah. And then I'm going to give you a treat on how you can only show your listing twice and get multiple offers. Woo! Okay. So guys, go into the Facebook group. Your biggest takeaway in the group. Hear why everybody needs to be live tomorrow. Hear what you got out of this class. So excited. See you guys. And Yana.